Buenos días y bienvenidos to those of you joining us. Thank you. Virtually and those who are present here at All Souls. I am the Reverend Katie Romano Griffin, your senior minister. My pronouns are she or ella. Together with Sarah Cannon, your director of children's and community programming, pronouns she, her, and our multicultural ministry coach, Julica Herman de la Fuente, pronouns she, ella. We are your worship team with Nadia Carmody, pronouns she, ella. Nadia is back joining us today. And what is a multicultural ministry coach, you say? A multicultural ministry coach is a religious educator. And in this particular instance, Julica Herman de la Fuente, someday soon to be Reverend, specializes in anti-racism, anti-oppression, education, multicultural, and multi-generational ministry. Julica has graduate and doctoral studies, practical application, and coaching work with religious leaders and congregations across the country. Julica's ministry is to journey with congregations like ours that recognize that the global majority is indeed a majority, and our congregations have historically been dominant culture in terms of being white identified, and yet the rest of the world is a global majority. So Julica's work in journeying with us is to be a more intentionally welcoming, radically hospitable, multi-generational, multicultural community. Julica works primarily with me, with staff, and the board, but also shows up to work with the congregation from time to time. Now, here at All Souls, love is our spirit. We've been saying it since 1903, and it remains true today. So if you're visiting us this morning, we are glad to welcome you into this loving space. And know that while nursery care is available, we are an intentionally multi-generational congregation. You are welcome, no matter what age you are, to remain in the service and to join on the quilts. I'd like to invite everyone present to complete a connection card, which is at the end of the aisles. Let us know how we're doing. If your information has changed, let us know that too. If there's a joy or a question on your hearts, please also put that on the connection cards. I want to welcome you again and bring you into this morning with your whole self, all of you. Your joys, your sorrows, your worries, your wonderings, warts and all, as they say, you are fully welcome in this space. If there is a concern on your heart and you'd like to speak to a pastoral care team member, you can reach out to pastoralcare@allsoulsindy.org. Our All Souls Matter theme this month is delight. You can sign up for a group with Nasreen or check out the packet, which is right at the top of In the Know. Those materials are for everyone in the congregation to explore with. Just a few quick announcements. I'm hoping, let's see, I don't see Diane or Helen today. They must be online, but let's congratulate Helen Dwyer and Diane Kennedy because Diane has been elected to the Midwest UU Conference Board, and Helen Dwyer has been elected for a third term on the Mid-America Nominating Committee. So thank them both. We thank them both for their service. The Board of Trustees and I are going to be mingling at coffee hour, so please do talk to us if you have any questions for us about staffing changes or anything else that might be on your heart. We are having a big party after service next Sunday, June 18th, to honor Nancy and Sarah. So please bring your dancing shoes and all the love in your heart to properly love on these two people who have given so much to the All Souls community. In this moment of our shared journey, may you feel witnessed and honored. Wherever you are, may you remember that whether you are here for the first time or the thousandth, whomever you are, whomever you love, whatever your ability, gender, beliefs, political affiliation, or documentation status, you are welcome here and you are never alone. Let us now please rise and body or spirit and greet our neighbors, including those online. Let us center ourselves more fully in this moment, made holy by your intentional presence, with the words of poet David White. Sometimes, if you move carefully through the forest, breathing like the ones in the old stories who cross a shimmering bed of leaves without a sound,
you come to a place whose only task is to trouble you with tiny but frightening requests, conceived out of nowhere, but in this place beginning to lead everywhere.
requests to stop what you're doing now and to stop what you are becoming while you do it.
Questions that can make or unmake a life. Questions that have patiently waited for you.
Questions that have no right to go away. Come with your questions, your worries, your longings, your joys, your wonder. Come with your full self.
Come, let us worship.
The ritual of lighting our chalice reminds us to continually renew our promise, to live into our covenant, to put love into action, and to live out the community of love and justice we aim to be. Please rise in body or spirit as Nadia lights our chalice, and we say these adapted chalice lighting words from James Villa Blake, the same words we have spoken since 1903. Love is the spirit of the church, and service is all. To dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. This is our covenant. Please.
And to choose your line, we have 4 different lines, and we will sing all of them together and separately. So before we sing everything together, let's just make sure we know the lines. So line number 1.
Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going?
One more time.
Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going?
Now line number 2. Ready, go.
Where do we come from?
One more time.
Where do we come from?
Line number 3. Ready, go.
Mystery, mystery. Life is a riddle and a mystery.
One more time.
Mystery, mystery. Life is a riddle and a mystery.
Line number 4, finally.
Where do we come from? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Where are we going?
Okay, now let's have some fun. Starting with line number 2. If you picked line number 2, sing with us. I'm sorry, line number 3. That's exactly what I meant. Just so you guys don't get as lost as I am right now, we have line number 1, line number 2, number 3, and number 4. So if you see them singing and you chose their line, you sing with them, okay? Okay, number 3.
Mystery, mystery. Life is a riddle and a mystery. Mystery, mystery. Life is a riddle and a mystery.
Where do we come
mystery.
from?
Life is a riddle and a mystery.
Where
Mystery,
do we come
mystery.
from?
Life is a riddle and a mystery.
Where do we come from?
Mystery.
What are we?
Life is a
Where are
riddle
we
and a
going?
mystery.
Where come from?
Mystery.
What are we?
Life is a riddle and a
going? Where do
mystery.
we come from?
Mystery.
What are we?
Life is a riddle and a mystery. 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 Life is a riddle and a mystery. 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 Life is a riddle and a mystery. Mystery. Life is a riddle and a mystery. 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 Life is a riddle and a mystery. 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 Life is a riddle and a mystery. 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 Life is a riddle and a mystery.
Great job, everyone.
That. Whoa, loads better. Now I'm going to have to be careful to moderate my volume. So, let me just start by saying that no amount of time I could spend with you would ever be enough. We know that, right? There's never going to come a day when I would have looked around and shrugged and said, well, I've done everything there is here for me to do. There's no goodbye. that could ever communicate to you just how special you are to me. So let's just put that part down for a minute. I used to attend a small congregation in another state, and they didn't have funds for a director of a religious education. So 3 of us split teaching and volunteer coordination between us, and the minister did the time for all ages. They couldn't afford a full-time minister either, so we had a part-time minister, several, while I was there. Because part-time ministry jobs tend to attract people who are in an in-between place. Maybe they've been sick and they're slowly getting better. Maybe they're working their way toward retiring. Maybe it's their very first posting and they're going to move on. It can be hard when a minister leaves, but they did, just the same. And while that period of separation hurt, it did pass. I'm still friends with some of my past ministers and their families. Before that church, I went to a UU fellowship, which had no religious educator or minister at all. The congregation ran the service themselves week after week for many years. Here is what I learned from those experiences. If your community is tight, it doesn't matter who's on your staff team. I'm not saying a great religious educator or minister can't do awesome things for a congregation. I think we've done some awesome things here together. But I have always been deadly serious when I have said to you that the congregation is the curriculum. I don't just say that as your religious educator. I say it as the parent of 3 Unitarian Universalist youth and young adults, someone who has heard a ton of feedback from UU youth who were not mine. It's why I've been so passionate about people of all ages here spending more time together in worship, in programs, in social activities. Above all else, you need to really, truly know each other. You need to be looking forward to seeing each other every single Sunday and texting or calling to check in if you don't see each other. And I don't mean the little pods that we tend to circulate in because you're in the same small groups, or you have kids around the same age, or you've known each other for 20 years. I mean, each of you needs to lean into the idea of knowing everybody. Now, Ada is at Llama Camp this week. And I mean Llama Camp. So, there's a talking point, obviously, for when she gets back. But I also want to just call out and urge you to follow her example, because everybody here knows Ada. And everybody knows Ada because she gets herself up during Rise and Greet Your Neighbor, and she goes all the way to the back of the church, and she makes sure she introduces herself to everybody she meets, and she exhorts all of you to do the same. Remember, and I cannot emphasize this enough, All Souls is not a building. It is not an institution. It is not a venue. It is a community. And the quality of that community is the key to your survival. Y'all have an incredible crop of young people here. Passionate about justice, curious about theology, funny and thoughtful and kind. I am going to miss them terribly. But who they really need to show up for them is not me. It's you. When you don't do that, the first warning sign is youth who don't come to programs and young adults who don't stay. And I'm going to say this for my colleague yet to come. You cannot staff your way out of that. You cannot. You are the curriculum. Go to multi-generational programs. Accept the leadership of young people. Show up for youth and physically take them where they want to go. Be friends. Have messy edges to your relationships and do the real work of addressing problems in a covenantal way. Don't ambush each other. Trust each other and talk one-on-one. You are the curriculum. I trust you. You can do it. I believe in you.
standing and appreciating. If you have ever been touched by one of Sarah's messages, by a moment with Sarah, can we just have a giant, we love you, Sarah? We love you, Sarah. Thank you. Oh, we set aside this time each week for the joys and sorrows in this community. We celebrate for each other, even when we're sad. We journey with each other, even though we can't always journey next to each other, knowing that sometimes our lives include a space of separation, and yet our hearts still beat with love for each other. In this time of transition, I give to you these words of the Reverend Lynn Unger. You are not wrong to be furious. You are not wrong to be scared. You are not wrong to wonder what we do today and tomorrow and tomorrow. You are not wrong to notice the brilliance of the sky. You are not wrong to think of your child. You're not wrong to imagine people you will never know. You're not wrong to think, this really doesn't affect me, and to know it really does. You're not wrong to look for pictures of puppies or kittens or flowers or trees. You're not wrong to massage the ache out of your own heart. You are not wrong to yell or cry or scream or hide under the covers in your bed. You're not wrong to turn to your neighbor and say, "What do we do now?" Joys and sorrows bring both bring change and questions of what's next in our life cycle. And if you live long enough, you know that our loving leads to loss. And as Valerie Kaur says, grief is the price of love. And with grief and change also comes feelings of fear, excitement, sometimes joy, possibility, and a myriad of all other emotions. Now, Fritz Perls, the founder of Gestalt therapy, once stated that fear is excitement without the breath. So when we feel afraid, we stop breathing. But our body goes through the same mechanical process as when it's excited. But when we're excited, like if we see a butterfly with brilliant colors on its wings, have you had that happen? Where all of a sudden you see a butterfly on a flower and you go, "Oh!" Because you're excited? I invite you to notice when you have that feeling of fear and take the breath. And ask the question, will fear and grief drive us apart or together, as Sarah invites us to consider? Coming together, and we get to choose. We are the people of choosing to be in covenant or out of covenant. And we choose it every moment of every day. But I say this to you, with love, all things are possible. I invite you now to rise in body or spirit as we sing together hymn number 1051, We Are.
and sings to the universe who we are. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage and fathers of time. We are daughters of dust and the sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy and brothers of love. We are lovers of life and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth and keepers of faith. We are makers of peace and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandfather's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage and daughters of time. We are daughters of dust and the sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy and brothers of love. We are mothers of life and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth and keepers of faith. We are makers of peace and the wisdom of ages. We are the grandmother's prayers, and we are the grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. For each child is born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are.
I love that hymn. We are all of those things. And let me also say that we are parents and siblings and non-binary people. And that when the gendered part of the song, I'm like, okay, yes, but we respect music the way that it was written, and Isay Barnwell is a blessing. So, I just want to add the and. Hi. I'm so glad to be back. I'm Julika. I'm your multicultural ministry coach. Reverend Katie already described my role, so I don't have to talk about that. Today, I have a question box sermon for you. You've done question box sermons here before, right? You know how it works, like you ask a bunch of questions and then I try to scramble and organize myself and give answers. Well, I am here because I worked with your board yesterday during an all-day retreat. We had a really good time. And I asked them to ask me questions about change. Since the topic of the service was change brings all the feelings, I was like, let's just keep talking. And so my intention here is to continue the conversation that I started with your board members, answer the questions, but then also continue the conversation that you and I have been having for several years. Because it is such a delight to return to your pulpit. Thank you for having me again. And to continue this journey of watching you grow and become. So this moment is a conversation that will speak to different people in different ways, because some of you remember some previous things that I have said, and some of you are meeting me for the first time. Hopefully there will be a little bit of everything for everyone. And the last thing I want to say about the questions is that these questions are both questions that the board has, that they wanted me to say more about, or questions that they thought you might have. And so it's a combination. So the first question I'm going to engage is, why does change hurt? right? What a good question. There's going to be a lot of more on that later, and I'm giving these to Katie, and Reverend Katie's going to preach some more because I cannot possibly cover all of these questions. In this case, this first question, I want to say, change hurts because of loss, because of grief. And you heard about that in the video that you received in your email on Friday. And if you haven't seen that 11-minute video, go see it, because it is so good. It's about the roller coaster of change and why change is difficult. So change hurts because we lose things and we're not ready sometimes for that loss. And I'm going to say more about this later, but that's regardless of whether the change is a chosen change or one that happens to you. It's regardless of whether it's a happy change or a sad change. Like having a baby is one of the happiest things I ever did, and it was one of the hardest. And it gave me so many challenges. And I lost, well, we're not going to talk about that. That's a whole other sermon. So change is hard because it calls us forward into the next thing, but we have to let go of the thing that we knew, the thing that we were, the thing that we felt. Yeah. Now, the next question. Change often includes grief. Can you talk to us about how to move through grief in a healthy way? What an excellent question. I can't do that justice. Some of what I'm going to say to these other questions touches on that question, but that's literally like 5 sermons right there, which you will now be receiving. Thank you for that question. Thank you for knowing that it's about how do we grieve. So I'm going to jump to the next question, which is connected to that question. But please do know that there's so much more there.
Coming to you in October.
It's been scheduled. I'm feeling completely overwhelmed by all of the staff changes. What should I do? Yeah. Let's breathe. Reverend Katie just said, fear and excitement, breath, right? When you're feeling overwhelmed, it's because it's like, I can't, it's too much. I can't possibly have all of these feelings, and that's what's overwhelming, the immensity of the experience. So my loving advice and blessing to you is have your feelings. Have your feelings. You know that beautiful poem from Rumi, The Guest House? Every big feeling that comes through us is just clearing us out for the next thing. It's about letting yourself be cleansed and releasing. That's what the feelings help us do. And if we don't do that, we get both literally and metaphorically constipated. That's why you are overwhelmed, because it's too much. You can't hold it. You're not supposed to hold it. Let it move through you. There's a really good book, Burnout, that talks about what happens when you don't complete the stress cycle. Completing the stress cycle means finishing having some feelings that you've had because your adrenal system has already been engaged. So if you're stressed, and this is also if you're overwhelmed or if you're anxious and you're looping, it's very hard to get to a grounded spiritual place. So you need to complete the stress cycle through exercise, through breath, through prayer, through community, through allowing yourselves to feel when it's scary. My favorite, I'm sorry, I got distracted because I looked at the clock and I did some math, because I'm going to try to get as many questions as I can until I'm running out of time. My favorite change model is one that I have shared with you before when I was here doing a 3-sermon series during Reverend Anastasia's sabbatical, and I talked about the change cycle. I see some of you nodding. Thank you. I appreciate that you remember that, at least vaguely. For those of you who weren't there, the change cycle by Martha Beck is this square of change, that 4 squares, 1, 2, 3, 4. And she says, we're always in change. We're always being catapulted into square one. Back to square one. I'm back at square one. And square one is the square of loss, death, and rebirth. And each square has a mantra. And I'm not going to review the whole model again for you. But I think the mantra for square one is especially useful for you right now. The mantra of square one is, I don't know what the hell is going on, and that's okay. So the important part about that mantra is the second part. Well, actually, both of them are important, but and that's okay. Breathe. So we are in a time of uncertainty when we have staff changes, when we have post-pandemic life, when we have nonsense at the national and state level, always. I don't know what the hell is going on. And then your neighbor says, and that's okay. So you turn to each other, it's okay. That's how you manage the overwhelm. Don't make any big decisions when you're activated, please. Finish having the feelings. Then go into a place of, okay, what's being birthed? What's possible? What's next? All right. The next couple of questions are more technical-ish, so I'm gonna read them together and then address them. Pace of change. How do you assess what the right pace of change is or should be? When should you slow it down? When should you push and speed it up? And then also, change can sometimes be minor things as well as major. It's often a journey. How can we better be transparent and educational about these small changes in the journey as showing progress? So how do you manage change? How do you do change? These 2 questions are about the technical aspects of change, if you will. The first thing I want to say about the pace of change is you're very lucky if you actually can control the pace of change, because that actually means that you have some control over what's going on. Most of the time, change happens, and it happens not at the pace that we would want. Sometimes, because it's too slow, no matter how much you try to move things along. Hello, institutional practices and policies. Oh, we need another committee meeting, right? That's what we need. And sometimes, because everything is happening all at once, could we just please stop? There's too much. So the pace of change is mostly determined elsewhere. And what I want to remind you, you have heard me preach about this as well, I want to remind you to release the ethic of control. The ethic of control is this belief, this understanding that in order to be good, I need to control the outcome of my actions. I don't even just have to control the actions, but the outcome of the actions. That's ridiculous. You're always gonna feel insufficient if your goodness depends on how well things turn out. That is not the place that we find community and resilience and love. We need to find our capacity for change in a different place, which Sharon Welch, who is the person that talks about the ethic of control and ethic of risk, she calls it the ethic of risk, and she is talking about African-American theologians and writers, in particular women, African-American women, who are trying to make sense of racism and sexism and how to survive it. And the answer is to take strategic risks in community. Don't try to control things. How could you possibly control racism? You strategize and you figure out what do you want to do next and how are we as a community going to shift the needle just a little bit in the direction of liberation and justice. So I just want to share one more piece about that, and I'm running out of time. It's very sad. Sharon Welch talks about how, many of us know the serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. That's fairly familiar, right? Well, she has a better prayer. She says, you're still trying to figure out control stuff with that prayer. Try this one. What improbable task with which unpredictable results shall we undertake today? What improbable task with which unpredictable results shall we undertake today? What do you want to try next? What's possible now? These are questions that are at the center of multicultural ministry. All right. If you can control the pace of change, I'm going to point you to the diffusion of innovation theory. And I'll tell you all these books later in the coffee hour, right? Don't worry about it. But choosing change, how to help churches face the future, one of the pieces that it teaches us is that, the diffusion of innovation theory is that one about who buys the next iPhone, the innovators, the early adopters, the majority, the late majority, and the laggards. How do you relate to innovation? Do you know what I'm talking about? I need a few nods. Thank you. Okay, great. So when you can control the pace of change, you pitch the change to the late majority. The mistake that communities make is they have the innovators and the early adopters lead the pace of change, and then the rest of the group is freaking out. So you need to bring everybody along. The laggards are called laggards for a reason. Don't put too much energy into the laggards, but love them and respect them and listen to them. The laggards cannot set the pace because they don't want the change. But the late majority does, and if you treat the laggards well, the late majority will come with you. If you disrespect the people in the community that don't want the change, the late majority will hold back on the change because it makes them nervous that not everybody's being included. So, if you want a workshop on that, I'm your girl. I love that stuff. Okay. I thought I would have more time. Okay. Can I have 5 more minutes? Can we go late? Will you stay? You promise? Okay, thank you. The next 2 questions are, I'm gonna skip the other one about education and transparency. I'll talk to your board about that. Okay. The next is an opportunity for the children to ask any questions. Do the children have any questions about change? No? We're cool. Okay. A sign that I'm being too heady, but that's all right. I will forgive myself. The next chunk of questions. What are different ways of having a UU service that may be more multiculturally aligned and help us have more or different feelings? As UUs move toward multicultural frameworks, how will the UU worship service start to change? Change is the nature of all things, yet in this space of worship, we seek safety and consistency. How can we treat change as a spiritual practice? What happened to humanism? All of these questions about change in worship are excellent. Have you noticed that things have changed in worship already this year? Like what? A little louder. Like clapping, okay. Multilingual. The kids are more involved. Yeah. Reverend Katie has been starting to bring change to worship. And maybe for some of you, that's not the most comfortable thing. We had a really interesting conversation yesterday on the board about the importance of the sermon and when and how the sermon works. As we continue to do the multicultural ministry of this church, worship is going to be one of the places where you experiment and lean into discomfort. It is one of the places that you collectively as a community share most frequently, so it's one of the better places to experiment. So how to make this a spiritual practice and how to engage this is all about being in community, being in relationship, talking to each other, processing how it feels, asking for what you need. It's a journey of noticing, sharing, and then not just noticing here, but noticing here. Who else is being fed, and what works for different people? How can we take more musical risks? You're lucky you have Gabe. Yeah. Yeah. So, it connects back to the ethic of control, and it connects to the need for comfort. And I think the thing to do is to have some basic things that are for sure always going to happen. Don't take away joys and sorrows, please. Don't take away your covenant. Like, you need to have the liturgical, ritual feeling of familiarity and also bring a spirit of play and curiosity and uncertainty. What are we going to do differently in worship today? How will it be fun? How will it engage the younger people in the community? So, I was hoping for a question, but no, that's okay. So, how is it going to change? In so many different, lovely, beautiful ways. But it's only going to change if you let it change. It's only going to change if you say to your worship leaders and your worship committee, thank you, that was totally weird. I really appreciated that, it super pushed me. They lean in with all of the people up here. Because, I personally think Nadia should deliver a sermon soon. Right? Yeah. That is not the usual practice in Unitarian Universalist congregations, and it should be. So, lots of new changes will come. How many of them? We don't know. We're going to do it together. And I say we because I'm going to continue to be your multicultural ministry coach. I'm going to continue to work with your minister. I'm going to continue to work with your board and your staff. And I will continue to visit you and offer workshops and hopefully be in your pulpit if I didn't annoy you too much today, and you'll ask me back. There's a couple of questions about anti-racism in particular, not specific to worship, but how can I become a better person and be more forward-thinking in racial issues? And if I'm not supposed to learn from people of color, how do I learn? Really good questions. These are my questions, but not for today. This is for our ongoing work this year. So more on anti-racism education and development, I promise you. And I want to finish with this last question, which is, what changes are you seeing in Unitarian Universalism and other UU churches post-COVID? Are we normal? My sweet, sweet people, you are not normal, you are special. You are my favorite. No, you are normal. You are normal, and the many changes that you are experiencing are part of this resettling and reshifting post-pandemic. There's just so much that we're still trying to figure out. There's so much that we're still trying to move through together, and so the key here is the together part. having interdependent, relational community. Not codependent, interdependent. Having strength and energy with and for each other. Taking turns saying, I don't know what the hell's going on. It's okay. It's okay. And we're going to take turns noticing who needs the grounding and the centering and who has the centering to offer. Who can be the anchor today? Please do not expect Reverend Katie to be your anchor every single time. She is your anchor, but also give her room to say, I don't know what the hell's going on, and the rest of you say, and that's okay. All of us together. That's how we get through overwhelming, difficult times. And also, we leverage these times, because one way that you are not normal compared to other Unitarian Universalist congregations and churches that I'm working at is you're at the edge of exploring what multicultural ministry looks like. There are other congregations and a lot of UUA staff that are watching this congregation with a lot of curiosity. There's a UUA staff person that collects the communications from this congregation because they are so good, in case other congregations need them later. You got something good going on here. And when you're at the edge, when you're changing things, you don't know what's going on often, because there aren't playbooks yet, because there aren't lists. Yesterday, I did this really amazing evaluation as liberation and transformation work. That doesn't exist. We are creating it for you, and therefore for Unitarian Universalism. So I just want to leave you with my blessing and my love for now. I hope to be back. I hope to see you soon again. But for you to know that you are more than just normal, more than just fine. You are lovely. And you have had a very intense year, and you are doing a very good job. Cookies for everyone. I will see you in coffee hour, and I would love to have more conversation with you. Blessings.
Mil gracias. Each week we gather together to align our giving with our values. We give to support the mission and the ministries of our congregation and share half of our weekly offering with an organization whose values align with ours. This week we are giving again to support Trinity Haven. With the slate of hate that rolled through this past year, the need for Trinity Haven, which supports LGBTQ youth and young adults in finding safe homes when they have been forced out of their own, is especially crucial. To contribute, you can gift cash or a check in the collection plate. Do write, share the plate on the check. If you're writing a check, that helps Nancy out. If you're online, please do the same by going to All Souls, following the link to give to All Souls here. Thank you for your generosity in supporting the mission and the ministries of All Souls and supporting Trinity Haven, that is doing critical work in our community at this moment in time. The morning offering may now be given and gratefully received. And if you'd like to sing along with the choir, the words are in your order of celebration. This is also a good one for shakers and for shaken.
Feel free to stand up, please. Oh, let me love in a holy, holy way. Oh, let me love in a holy, holy way.
Let me love in a holy, holy way.
Oh, let me love in a holy, holy way.
Let me love in a holy, holy way.
Oh, let me know that love is all around.
Let me know that love is all around me.
Oh, let me know that love is all around.
Let me know that love is all around me.
Oh, let me love in a holy, holy way.
Let me love in a holy, holy way.
Oh, let me love in a holy, holy way.
Oh, let me love in a holy, holy way.
Oh, let me live in a holy, holy way.
Let me live in a holy, holy way.
Oh, let me learn from all the ways of old.
Let me learn all the ways of old.
Oh, let me know that love will heal us all.
Let me know that love is all.
Oh, let me walk each day a little wiser.
Let me walk each day a little wiser.
Oh, let me live in a holy, holy way.
Oh, let me live in a holy, holy way.
Oh, let me love in a holy, holy way.
Oh, let me love in a holy, holy way.
Oh, let me love in a holy, holy way.
Let me love in a holy, holy way.
Oh, let me love in a holy, holy way.
Let me love in a holy, holy way.
Oh, let me know that love is all around.
Let me know that love is all around me.
Oh, let me know that love is all around.
Let me know that love is all around me.
Oh, let me love in a holy, holy way.
Oh, let me love in a holy, holy way.
Oh, let me love in a holy, holy way.
Oh, let me love in a holy, holy way.
Oh, let me love in a holy, holy way.
Let me love in a holy, holy way.
Thank you.
That was awesome. I give to you these words by the Reverend Dr. Wayne Arneson. Take courage, friends. The way is often hard. The path is never clear, and the stakes are very high. Take courage, for deep down there is another truth. You are not alone. Amen, and blessed be.
The postlude's gonna be a little bit different today. We have already sung this before, but just making sure everybody knows everything. So we have the lyrics here, and it's very simple. Just to start, I will sing the first line, and then you guys repeat the same thing with us, okay? So, gonna keep on moving forward. Gonna keep on moving forward. Second line, keep on moving forward. I skipped one line. Oh my God. Thank you, that was the third line. Amazing. So going back to the first line. Gonna keep on moving forward. Second line, keep on moving forward. Second line. Keep on moving forward. Third line. Gonna keep on moving forward.
Gonna keep on moving forward.
Never turning back.
Never turning back.
That one was almost good. One more time. Never turning back.
Never turning back.
Never turning back.
Never turning back.
Okay, now we can sing the whole thing without repeating each line. Okay? Let's go. Gonna keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Second verse, we change the lyrics to moving proudly. Gonna keep on moving proudly. Keep on moving proudly. Keep on moving proudly. Never turning back. Never turning back. And now keep on loving boldly. Gonna keep on loving boldly. Keep on loving boldly. Keep on loving boldly. Never turning back. Never turning back. Now let's keep loving boldly, drinking coffee.